Welcome back to the Excel guy, guys. Today we're going to be starting a new series. We're going to be talking about Vba User Forms. Okay, so Vba User Forms allow you to create basically imagine it's a PDF document where a user can go in and they can fill in information, and you can take that information and save it into a workbook. So instead of having the user, like you're seeing on the screen here, fill in manual row by row, and it looks like data. We can create a user form to where they can look at it as a nice, well put together, organized PDF document, and not a PDF document, but it looks like one. And they fill it in, and they can save their data directly into this raw data sheet. And then you can build pivot tables off this data sheet. You can build dashboards. You can do whatever you want. So today we're going to get into the first video of the series, which is just setting up our user form. Okay, so very basic. And setting that up. So it's going to look at the end, it's going to look something like this, where we have a data entry form. You can select drop downs, you can type in various fields. We'll add a date here. We can add shipping costs, we can add a return cost, then we can select a product that is associated with this winery. So we can select this one, we can enter the quantity, and we can select the carrier type. We can do that for all these different 15 products, and we save and continue. And what that's going to do is going to throw the data directly into this raw data sheet, and then we have a pivot table that's looking at the raw data sheet. So now you can build visualizations, you can have quick data entry, accurate data entry. So let's get right into it, you guys. Okay, we're going to start with a clean slate, blank Excel document. We're going to rebuild this entire user form here. So follow along if you guys want to learn how to do this. Let's go ahead and get started. To get started, to build your very first Vba Excel user form, what we need to make sure is that we have the developer tab enabled. And I've already covered a video of this in my previous channel, or my previous series. If you go back and look at the setup of VBA, you can learn this too, but we'll go ahead and do it real quick. So this developer tab is what we need. So first thing we're going to do is go to File. We're going to go to Options. We're going to go to Customize Ribbon. And then over here in the right panel, you should see a developer. It should be checked. If it's not checked, check it, select OK. Once we're there, we will have this developer tab. So setting up our very first user form is going to be very simple. We're going to go to Visual Basic up here on the left. And this is our window of where we're going to write our VBA code, where we're going to design our user form, and things of that nature. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to left click in this pane and say Insert User Form. Okay, so it doesn't look like much now, but eventually we're going to be getting back to what I was showing you in the beginning, where we have a bunch of fields we can fill out and save all those values to a raw data sheet. So let's go ahead and we'll set up a few things. The first things that we want to get right first. The first thing we want to do is we want to give our user form a name. Okay, so since we're dealing with wineries here, we're going to give it a form name of, we'll just say winery form, winery_form, so that we can reference it later on in our code. Okay. Next thing we want to do, just to pretty it up a little bit, up here, if we run it now, it's a blank form and it says user form 1 up top. Usually not a fan of that, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. So our caption here, we're just going to erase it and it'll be blank. So now if we run it again, you'll see we just have an empty form here, nothing to see. Okay. So to add little objects to our user form, we want to select this little toolbox option up here, and it's going to pop up this little toolbox, and we can drag things over like a label. We can do a text box, we can do a command button to perform actions, we can do check box, option buttons, toggle buttons, images, whatever you guys can think of. It is a little bit limited, unfortunately. Microsoft is kind of behind in the times with this stuff, and I don't think they have any interest in updating it, so this is what we have to work with. So let's just add a nice little title to our thing here. So we're going to drag it over here, and we can expand it. We'll just expand it to the edge of the form, and we will we'll give it a name, title, label. Okay, and then the caption. Since again we're dealing with wineries, we'll call it we're dealing with data entry, so we'll call it new data entry form. Awesome. So let's just change the font. So double clicking on font here, let's just make it a little bit larger. We'll add 28, maybe bold. Good. And we'll resize this here. Okay, so now we have a nice little header. We can change the background color of it by going to back color here, drop it down. I like to do this orangish color. I don't know. I think it looks clean, looks nice, easy to do. So we'll keep it at that. All right. So next thing we want to do is we want to set up the code to from the Excel sheet. We want to be able to have a button on the Excel sheet to display this form. Okay, so when the users click that button, we want this form to pop up in front of them to where they can fill out the form and then save the data. Okay, so let's exit out of this. Well, sorry, first thing we need to do is create a new module. Okay, so we're going to do insert, and we'll do module, and we'll just call this sub show form. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say winery underscore form dot show. Okay, so when this sub is called, it's going to pop up that user form in front of the user. Okay, so let's give this module a name too. Show form module. Oops, I spelled that wrong. Module. Awesome. Okay, so let's get out of this here, and we're going to let's insert a button here. Actually, I like to use shapes. I think they're a little bit cleaner. So we'll add a little shape here, and we're going to now assign a macro to it. So when the button is clicked, what do we want to happen? Well, we want to call our show form module that we just created, our subroutine that we just created. Okay, so we'll say okay. So now when I select this button, what should happen is the form should pop up in front of me, ready for input. So bam, there we go. Select the button, and now we have our user form here. Okay, now we don't have anything to fill in yet, so but good. So we have a form that's showing, we have a button that's showing our form. Now we're ready to start adding in some of the fields that we want to capture. So the winery name, the order number, the date. So we'll start with those. So let's go back to our form. So I selected Visual Basic here, and we're going to double click on our forms here. Great, so now we're back into it. So one of the things that we want to capture is the winery name, for example. So we're going to add a combo box. Okay, and a combo box allows you to select a drop down and select some of the fields that are in there. So we're going to give this a name of winery combo. We'll say okay. And now we want to add some values to this. Okay, we're going to start with the easier route just to show you guys some of the basic functions, and then we're going to get into a more advanced route. So, two things we need to keep in mind. We have these modules over here that can be used globally. You know, you can call functions, call different modules from different modules. You can do whatever you want. So this code stays in this module. Okay, now there's actual code that we can write in the inside of the form. So imagine like there's code inside of the form, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. So what we want to happen is when the user form pops up, we want this combo box to be populated automatically with values that the user can select from. Okay, so in order to do that, what we want to do is we just want to select our user form and double click. Okay, and so you'll see that we're not in any specific module. We're actually inside of the user form itself. Okay, so when you double click, it generates this code. We can get rid of this. We don't need that. What we want to work with is what's called user form initialize. So what that means is when the user form is initialized, when it pops up in front of the user, what do we want to happen? Well, we want it to load with the appropriate values that are going to populate the combo box. Okay, so we're going to do sub user form underscore initialize. Make sure you spell that right. Okay. So now, oops, sorry, this needs to be private sub user form initialize. So now, when the form is displayed to the user, it's going to execute this code that's going to be inside this block. Okay, because it's this underscore initialize. Great. So when we are inside of we'll call it code behind. Okay, so code behind is what's inside of the form. When we're inside of, we're in the code behind, what we can do is use this keyword me. So me, which is going to reference whatever form that you're in right now. So instead of where if you were outside of the form, you would have to do winery underscore form to reference the form. But since we're in the code behind, we can do me. So me dot, now we want to add a value to our combo box. So we're going to say me dot, we named our combo box winery combo, okay? And we're going to say dot add item space, and we'll just say winery number 1. Awesome. So it's going to add that value to the combo box. So let's go ahead and see this in action. So if we close out of here and we select our button, what we didn't see happen was that user form initialize sub being called. But it did call because it showed the form and then it executes that initialize code in the back. Okay, so what it did was it added that winery number 1 value. So now we have a drop down. We can add as many things as we want here. So this is the easier route. It's a little bit more hard code. We're going to go in the next video a little bit more advanced on how we can populate this user form or this list with a list of values from a range from Excel. So let's say you wanted to give the user control over what values get populated in that combo box. Well, we can populate a row or a column in an Excel sheet, and then we can reference that column from our code behind and populate that combo box with those values. Okay, so that's going to be the next video. We're already running 10 minutes into this one, so I'm going to quickly recap. We added the developer tab to our user form here. We built our user form, okay, our basic user form. We added a nice label, just kind of a title header. We added a combo box, and we appropriately named our items. We created a module that is winery underscore form.show for when the user selects this button, it's going to pop up that user form. Okay, so awesome. So next video, you guys, we're going to populate this combo box with a range of values that the user can control that won't have to go into the code and add those values. So it's a lot more dynamic. It won't be hard-coded, so it'll be good. So come back next time. We're going to get a little bit more advanced. We're going to move a little bit quicker on some of these things, and we'll get right into it. Awesome. See you guys next week.